All right, so imagine this. You've just been given like the keys to like a super high-end game development studio, unlimited budget, the best tech you can imagine, the whole shebang. But there's one tiny problem. You don't know anything about coding. Is it game over before you even begin? Well, not necessarily. Today we're diving deep into some really interesting code that hints at a future where AI is calling the shots in game dev.
What's really cool here is that we're not just talking about like AI, generating levels or characters. I mean, we've already seen that kind of thing. This code seems to point to a completely autonomous system, like a digital game developer that can learn and adapt on its own.
So you're saying it's not like AI helping developers, it's AI being the developer.
Exactly. The code describes this system called auto game dev, and it's basically a whole ecosystem for AI-powered game development.
Okay, so let's break that down a little. What are we actually looking at here?
Well, the code outlines a few key components. You've got a system for searching the web, another for visualizing data, a learning system. Then there's a code generator and even a sandbox environment for testing. It's almost like you're looking at a digital version of a human game dev team.
So it's like you've got the research department digging up info, and then you've got the design team coming up with ideas and sketching things out. And of course, you've got the programmers writing the code. Oh, and the QA team testing the game. But instead of all those people, it's all done by this AI.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. And what I find really fascinating is that the code suggests this AI is designed for continuous improvement. It's always learning, always refining its process. It's always pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Okay, so where does this digital game dev even start?
It all begins with the web search system. That's where the AI starts pulling in information. But it's not just passively waiting for data. It's actively scouring the internet for anything and everything related to game development.
So it's like a digital bloodhound sniffing out code snippets, game design trends, player feedback forms, basically anything that can give it insight into what makes a good game right.
Right. And it's not just gathering data randomly either. The code mentions something about calculating source trust. So the AI is actually evaluating the quality of the information it finds. It's learning to separate the good stuff from the useless stuff, just like a, experienced human researcher.
Wow, so this AI is building up this huge database of knowledge about games. But how does it even begin to make sense of it all?
Well, that's where the data visualizer comes in. This component takes all that raw information and creates interactive 3D visualizations.
So instead of like sifting through endless lines of code and text, the AI gets to see this dynamic, evolving map of game mechanics, trends, player feedback. It's kind of like a 3D model of the entire game development universe, isn't it?
Exactly. And this isn't just for show either. Visualizing the data helps the AI spot patterns and connections that might not be obvious just from reading text. It's a way for the AI to really start understanding the complex world of game design.
So we've talked about the research phase, the AI is gathering info and making sense of it.
Yeah.
But how does it go from data to actually creating a game?
Well, that's where things start to get really interesting. The sandbox environment and the learning system are like the AI's virtual playground. It's like a digital game dev studio where it can experiment and test its ideas without any real-world consequences.
So it's not just spitting out code without any thought. It's actually trying things out, seeing what works, what doesn't. And it's actually learning from its mistakes.
Exactly. The code mentions something about running simulations with virtual players, almost like automated playtesting. And as the AI experiments, the learning system kicks in.
So is this system where the AI really starts to get its own grasp of game design?
Yeah, you could say that. It's where the AI starts to form its own internal model of what makes a game fun, engaging, and challenging. And this model is always being refined as the AI plays more games, analyzes more data, and runs more experiments in the sandbox.
So it's like digital evolution for game development.
Yeah, I like that.
The best ideas survive and get, reproduced, while the weaker ones get tossed out. But at some point, the AI has to actually start writing code right. How does that happen?
Well, that's where the code generator comes in. This component takes all the knowledge the AI has learned and turns it into actual working game code. But it's not just copying and pasting code from the internet.
So the AI isn't just some, glorified code monkey. It's writing its own original code.
That's what it looks like. And what's really mind-blowing is that the code suggests the AI isn't just regurgitating what it's found online. It's using what it has learned to come up with completely new solutions, potentially creating entirely new gameplay mechanics or design patterns.
Now, this is where it starts to feel like something out of science fiction. The AI isn't just a tool, it's like a creator in its own right. But how does it actually do that? How does it go from understanding game design to writing code?
That is a great question, and it's one that we'll dig into a little deeper in the next segment.
All right, so we'll be right back after a quick break to explore the fascinating world of AI code generation. Welcome back. So before the break, we were talking about how this AI could write its own game code. So how does this code generator actually work? Is it like some sort of supercharged autocomplete for game developers?
It's way more advanced than that. Think of it this way. The AI has spent all this time learning the basic elements of games. Things like the physics, the logic, the way players interact. It's almost like it's absorbed this massive library of game design patterns.
So instead of writing every single line of code from scratch, it can kind of pull from this library and combine those elements in new ways. That sounds incredibly efficient.
Yeah, and the code suggests something even more impressive. There's this mention of templates and optimizations. That seems to indicate that the AI isn't just copying and pasting code. It can adapt and refine these templates based on what it's learned about making games that are fun and engaging.
Oh, so it's like a master chef who can take a simple recipe and turn it into something truly incredible, adding their own special touch and techniques to create like a one-of-a-kind dish.
That's a great analogy. And remember, the AI is learning with every single game it creates. It's constantly analyzing what works, what doesn't, and changing its approach based on that.
So it's not just about making games faster, it's about making them better. What kind of impact could this have on the gaming industry as a whole?
Well, imagine a world where small indie studios have access to the same level of creative power as the giant companies. Suddenly, anyone with a great idea could create a game that looks and feels like a AAA title.
That would completely change the game. We could see this explosion of creativity and innovation as all these new voices and perspectives enter the market. What about the players, though? How could this change things for us?
Well, for one thing, we could see games that are truly unique and groundbreaking. Imagine playing a game that's unlike anything you've ever experienced before, because it was created by an AI that thinks differently than any human developer.
And the AI can test and iterate on its designs much faster than any human team could. It's like having a development studio that never sleeps, constantly refining and improving the game based on like real-time feedback.
Sure.
So we could see games that are more polished, more balanced, and just more fun to play.
Right, and we could also see games that are specifically tailored to individual players.
Mm.
Imagine an AI that can analyze your playstyle, learn what you like, and create a game that's perfectly suited to your tastes.
Wow, that's like having a personal game designer available 24/7. That's incredible. But let's zoom out for a second and think about the bigger picture. We've been talking about this auto game dev system as it relates to games. But could this type of technology be used for other creative fields?
I think so, definitely. The basic principles at play here, like research analysis, experimentation, and code generation, those could apply to any field where creativity and innovation are important. Think about music, for example. What if an AI could listen to every song ever recorded, analyze the patterns and structures, and then compose completely new music?
We could hear symphonies that are both familiar and totally unique. Melodies that tap into emotions we didn't even know we had. What about art? Could an AI become the next Picasso?
Imagine an AI that could analyze every single brushstroke of every masterpiece, understand the subtle details of color and composition, and then create paintings that rival the works of the great masters.
It's mind-blowing to think about. What we always thought was uniquely human, our creativity might be something that AI can not only replicate, but maybe even surpass. That raises a whole new set of questions, though, doesn't it?
Definitely. What does it mean for human creativity if AI can reach that level of mastery? What are the ethical implications of machines creating art that can move us and inspire us? These are questions we'll need to seriously consider as AI keeps evolving.
It's both exciting and a bit unsettling all at the same time. For now, though, let's bring it back to the code. There's still so much to unpack here. We've talked about how the AI gathers information, visualizes it, and uses it to generate code. Yeah. But how does it actually learn? What makes this AI system truly intelligent?
Well, that's where the learning system comes back into the picture. And that's probably the most complex and fascinating part of this whole system. It's where the AI goes from being a really good copycat to something that starts to look like real intelligence.
So how does it work? What's going on behind the scenes?
The code mentions a knowledge base. Basically, it's a massive collection of information that the AI has gathered about game development. But it's not just storing data, it's actively processing it, looking for patterns, connections, and insights.
So it's not just a giant filing cabinet, it's more like a, super-powered brain that's constantly analyzing and synthesizing information.
Exactly. And the code also mentions something called a neural network. It's a type of artificial intelligence that's actually modeled after the human brain. It's this network of interconnected nodes that can process information and learn from it.
Okay, so the AI takes all this information it's gathered, feeds it into this neural network, and then what? How does that translate into actual learning?
Well, the neural network is able to spot patterns and relationships in the data. For example, it might learn that certain game mechanics tend to be more popular with players, or that certain combinations of code result in smoother gameplay.
So it's not just memorizing facts, it's actually understanding the underlying principles of game design.
Right. And that understanding is what allows the AI to make predictions and come up with new ideas. For instance, it might predict that a certain level design will be more challenging for players. Or it might even come up with a completely new game mechanic that no human developer has ever even thought of before.
That's incredible. But how does the AI know if it's on the right track? How does it know if its predictions are accurate or if its ideas are any good?
That's where the sandbox environment and that continuous improvement cycle we talked about come back in. The AI can test out its ideas in the virtual world, gather feedback, and adjust its approach based on what it learns.
So it's this constant feedback loop. The AI learns, experiments, gets feedback, and then learns some more.
Yeah.
And this cycle just keeps going, pushing the AI to become a better and better game developer.
Exactly. And the code mentions a learning rate. It basically controls how quickly the AI adapts to new information. So if the AI is doing well, it can speed up the learning rate and accelerate its development.
It's like digital evolution on fast forward. The AI is constantly adapting and improving, pushing the boundaries of what's possible in game development.
And it's not just about making games faster or more efficiently. This kind of AI could unlock entirely new genres and gameplay experiences that we can't even imagine yet.
It's like opening a door to a whole new world of gaming possibilities.
Mm.
We could see games that are more immersive, more challenging, more personalized, and more engaging than anything we've ever seen before.
And remember, it's not just limited to games. This type of AI could revolutionize any creative field where there's a lot of data to learn from. Imagine AI architects designing buildings, AI composers writing symphonies, or AI writers crafting novels. The possibilities are truly endless.
It's both exciting and a little bit intimidating to think about. We're standing at the very beginning of a new era of creativity, one where the line between human and machine is becoming more and more blurred.
And as with any powerful technology, it's our responsibility to use it wisely and ethically. We need to make sure that AI is enhancing human creativity, not replacing it entirely.
That's a really important point.
Mm.
And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. We've explored some really complex ideas, pondered some pretty big questions, and caught a glimpse of a future where AI plays a key role in the creative process. If there's one thing I hope you take away from this episode, it's a sense of wonder and possibility. We're living in a time of incredible technological advancement, and the future of creativity is quite literally written in the code.
And as always, the most important question isn't what the technology can do, but what we decide to do with it.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep your minds open and your curiosity burning bright. We're back, and before the break, we were just about to dive into the learning system. This is like the brain behind this whole AI game developer thing, right? This is where things get really interesting.
Absolutely. This is where the AI goes from being like a really good copycat to something that actually starts to look like real intelligence.
So how does it work? What's happening under the hood?
Well, the code mentions a knowledge base. It's essentially a massive collection of information that the AI has gathered about game development. But it's not just storing the data, it's actively processing it, looking for patterns, connections, and insights.
So it's not just a giant filing cabinet. It's more like a superpowered brain that's constantly analyzing and synthesizing information.
Exactly. And the code also mentions a neural network. This is a type of AI that's actually modeled after the human brain. It's this network of interconnected nodes that can process information and learn from it.
Okay, so the AI takes all this information, feeds it into this neural network, and then what? How does that actually translate into learning?
Well, the neural network is able to identify patterns and relationships in the data. Like it might learn that certain game mechanics are more popular with players, or that specific combinations of code lead to smoother gameplay.
So it's not just memorizing facts, it's actually understanding the underlying principles of game design.
Exactly. And this understanding allows the AI to make predictions and generate new ideas. For example, it might predict that a certain type of level design will be more challenging for players. Or it could even come up with a brand new game mechanic that no human developer has ever thought of.
That's incredible. But how does the AI know if it's on the right track? How does it know if its predictions are accurate or if its ideas are good?
That's where the sandbox environment and that continuous improvement cycle we talked about come back in. The AI can test its ideas in that virtual world, get feedback, and then adjust its approach based on what it learns.
So it's this constant feedback loop. The AI learns experiments, gets feedback, and then learns some more. And this cycle just repeats itself, pushing the AI to constantly become a better game developer.
Precisely. And the code mentions something called a learning rate. It basically controls how quickly the AI adapts to new information. So if the AI is doing well, it can increase that learning rate and really speed up its development.
It's like digital evolution on fast forward.
You got it.
The AI is always adapting and improving and pushing the boundaries of what's even possible in game development.
And the thing is, it's not just about making games faster or more efficiently. This type of AI could potentially unlock entirely new genres and gameplay experiences that we can't even begin to imagine yet.
It's like opening the door to a whole universe of new gaming possibilities. We could see games that are more immersive, more challenging, more personalized, and more engaging than anything we've ever played before.
And it's not just about games either. This type of AI could revolutionize any creative field where there's a lot of data to learn from. Just imagine AI architects designing buildings, AI composers writing symphonies, AI writers creating novels. It feels like the possibilities are endless.
It's pretty mind-blowing to think about. We're basically standing at the very edge of a new era of creativity, one where the line between human and machine is getting blurrier and blurrier all the time.
And like with any powerful technology, it's up to us to use it wisely and ethically. We need to make sure that AI is helping to enhance human creativity, not replacing it completely.
That's a good point. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive for today. We've explored some really complex concepts, pondered some pretty big questions, and gotten a glimpse into a future where AI plays a huge role in the creative process. But there's just one thing I want you to take away from this deep dive, is this feeling of wonder and possibility. We're living in a time of just incredible technological advancement, and the future of creativity is literally being written in the code.
And just remember, the most important question isn't what the technology is capable of, it's what we choose to do with it.
That's a great way to put it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep those minds open and stay curious out there.